Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, Tony Nomination Edition. I have made a spreadsheet of all of the Broadway shows. I saw all of them with the exception of All In Comedy About Love, which was a rotating cast of actors, a limited run. I didn't feel like it was a typical play, and I doubt if it will really be nominated for anything, so we're going to ignore that. But I saw everything else, and I got some opinions, and if you've been watching my reviews, you know what those opinions are. But now we're going to talk about nominations, who I think should be nominated and who I think will be nominated. Because let's talk about awards. Awards, yes, they give awards to people who have shown excellence in theater. But the Tony Awards is also a chance to really get the Broadway brand out to the theater-loving public. So they also have to realize the commercial aspect of this. And sometimes nominations will go to people who might bring viewers in to watch the awards, or they think will, which I don't think it really does. Sometimes they'll throw a bone to some shows, and also it really helps if your show is still open, because it really doesn't help Broadway if you give awards to shows that have already closed and people can't buy tickets to. So that's all has to be taken into consideration. But I'm going to dive into this. Usually there's going to be 4, 5 nominations for each category, depending on how many plays or musicals there are in each category. I believe if there's over 7, I think they'll maybe do a 5th nomination. The odds are really good in the Tonys, especially when you've got categories with only like 5 options. So speaking of only 5 options, or in this case, speaking of categories with only 7 options, let's start with Best Revival of a Play. So we've got Eureka Day, Glengarry Glen Ross, Home, Othello, Our Town, Romeo and Juliet, and Yellowface. Of those plays, the only 2 that I really loved was Yellowface and Eureka Day. So I think they should definitely get a nomination. And then for the rest, they'll probably give Glengarry Glen Ross a nomination because it's a great play and the revival was not bad. Probably give one to Our Town because it's another famous play and it starred Jim Parsons, and they might give it to Othello just because of the star power. I don't know. I would probably give it to Home, which was a 3-person play that only ran for like a month at the beginning of the fall because it was a limited run at Roundabout Theater, just to not give it to Othello or Romeo and Juliet. All right, so let's move into Best Play. There's some really great Best Play options this season. The 3 shoo-ins, I think, are John Proctor as the villain, Oh Mary, and The Picture of Dorian Gray. Those have the most buzz. They're all currently open. And so the other ones that I think might get some love are Purpose, because it's a very good play and it's still open. And my other 2 choices for that 5th spot would be The Hills of California, which is closed, and Cult of Love, which closed, but were both really good plays. Let's move into the acting categories. So the best leading actor is across play and revival of play. So we have a lot more people to choose from. And still, I had a hard time picking best actors in a play. I mean, Cola Scola in Oh Mary, assuming that they go for the best actor, not the best actress category. Cola Scola, absolutely. Then after that, there weren't really any huge standouts for me. Peter Friedman is great in Job, but that is closed. But I would pick him. I would pick Lewis McCartney in Stranger Things because that's still open and he does a great job. I could see Jake Gyllenhaal getting a nomination for Othello, movie star, and to thank him for spending so much time on Broadway. Also, I could see Kit Connor from Romeo and Juliet. That show's closed, but he's also a movie star. Some other options: Jim Parsons, Daniel Day Kim, Peter Gallagher, Robert Downey Jr., George Clooney. All big names. If they want to use any of those names to bring in some audiences to Broadway, they might do that. Okay, best leading actress in a play. Laura Donnelly for The Hills of California. I think she was nominated for an Olivier for that role. Sarah Snook for The Picture of Dorian Gray, absolutely. And Jessica Hecht for Eureka Day. And I love Jessica Hecht. I want her to win, but that's some stiff competition. Then, I don't know, maybe Mia Farrow for The Roommate. And we'll say Sadie Sink for John Proctor because she does a great job and she is also a name. Some other honorable mentions is Sydney Lemon in Job and Rachel Ziegler in Romeo and Juliet. Okay, best featured actor in a play. There's some really good choices for this one. I would say Conrad Ricamora for Oh Mary should get a nomination. Harry Lennox for playing the patriarch in Purpose. You could pick a lot of people from Glengarry Glen Ross. My favorites were Michael McKean, who plays a very small supporting role, but he was great. Bill Burr, who was also great. And if they want to throw some love to the movie stars, they might give a nomination to Kieran Culkin or Bob Odenkirk. All right, and my favorite, this is a throwback to the fall, was Francis Chu in Yellowface. He played David Henry Hwang's father and some other characters, but primarily that role. He was delightful, and I loved him so much. So I really want him to get a nomination. Some other options for honorable mentions: David Rash as the father figure who's tiptoeing into Alzheimer's in Cult of Love, and Gabriel Ebert, who plays the teacher everyone loves in John Proctor as the villain. All right, Best Featured Actress in a Play. There are a lot of good people for this one. I think if Eureka Day is smart, they will put Jessica Hecht in this category instead of main actress so that she doesn't have to go up against Sarah Snook and Lara Donnelly. So let's put Jessica Hecht in this, and LaTanya Richardson Jackson in Purpose, who plays the mother, and Kara Young, who won the Tony for Pearlie. She was also fantastic in Purpose. I would pick her. Fina Straza in John Proctor as the villain. I love her. She's so good. I could also, any of these girls in John Proctor as the villain could get nominations. I think Amalia Yu also has a good chance. And maybe Mare Winningham for playing the mother in Cult of Love. Mothers are such good roles to play. Some other honorable mentions are Marjan Neshat from English, Leanne Best, who plays the angry sister in The Hills of California. But any of those sisters could be nominated. They were all great. Bianca Leigh, especially if we want to give some trans representation. She's great in Oh Mary. So, yeah, we could go with any of those. Okay, let's get into Best Direction of a Play. This is fun. All right. The big ones is Danya Taymor for John Proctor is the villain, Sam Pinkleton for Oh Mary, Kip Williams for The Picture of Dorian Gray, Felicia Rashad for Purpose, and we'll throw in Stephen Daldry as the fifth for Stranger Things. I also thought Anna D. Shapiro did a great job in Eureka, and I think she's deserving of it. Some honorable mentions, also Cult of Love, English, and The Hills of California all had really good direction. All right, now we're going to get into the four technical elements, which are always difficult to pick because when I leave a show, I don't go, wow, the sound design or the lighting was great. Sound design is the hardest one for me. For me, it's like, did I understand it? Did I not understand it? So a lot of times you'll find that the most popular plays, they just group those technical things in with them. It's rare that a play gets no nominations except for sound design. So rare. They usually, people are like, oh, it's a good play and it's working together as a whole. Let's just give it lighting and set, and let's give it all the technical nominations because it's just a really good all-around play, which I think is a good way to go about it. But for the Tony voters, it really helps when you go into the play to know that it's nominated for sound design, so you can kind of key into that. Because otherwise, when you watch a play, you don't pay attention to that. Best scenic design. I would say John Pask for Good Night and Good Luck. Amazing set. I don't know if it serves the play, but it is an amazing set. The Hills of California, I loved this set design, especially that big staircase in the middle with such a powerful ending to that play with that staircase. Miriam Boother for Stranger Things, The First Shadow. All the technical awards for Stranger Things because it's a spectacle. And I'm going to say for the fifth spot, maybe we give it to Scott Pask again for Glengarry Glen Ross. He also did Good Night, Good Luck. Some other honorable mentions, of course, is Eureka Day, which was designed by Todd Rosenthal and David Bengali, just because that play was working all around. It's just one set, but I thought the set really served the piece. So maybe I'll move that up to my top 5 and take Scott Pask out. Also, Picture of Dorian Gray, if we consider that set design, projections and set design, it's hard to suss out which is which. And Oh Mary, maybe. And also English. I love it. Very simple set, but a very cool set. It was just like a box sitting in the middle of the stage. It was a classroom. And then it also rotated and you could see the areas outside where they smoked their cigarettes. All right, best costume design. I'm going to say Good Night and Good Luck, Brenda Abendandadolo. The Hills of California, which is Rob Howell again. He also did set design. Oh Mary, Holly Pearson. Those are great. And Bridget Riefenstuhl for Stranger Things, which has a lot of 1950s costumes and a lot of characters in a lot of places. So that was just a huge job. Also, Romeo and Juliet. I just didn't love that production, and the costumes were part of the madness, but they were inventive, so maybe she'll get a shout out. All right, for best lighting design of the play, I'm going to say Heather Gilbert for Good Night, Good Luck, Natasha Chivers for The Hills of California, Clements Williams for The Picture of Dorian Gray, again, if we're putting projections in with lighting, John Clark for Stranger Things, and of course, Natasha Katz gets nominated every year. She did Othello. Maybe she'll get a nomination another. Shout out to Isabella Bird for Romeo and Juliet. Again, didn't love those last two productions, so it's hard for me to give them much love, but it is probably deserved. Finally, we're going to get to sound design, and sound design is just the hardest one for me to know. If I understood it, I'm like, great. But I say Nick Powell for The Hills of California, Daniel Kluger and Drew Levy for Oh Mary, Clements Williams for The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Paul Arditi for Stranger Things, The First Shadow. You notice I've picked shows that are all still open because they're more likely to get those nominations. All right, we busted through those in just over 10 minutes. Let's see how long it takes us to get through the musicals. So we're going to do Best Revival of a Musical. Like Best Revival of a Play, there's only 7 to choose from. My favorites for those are Gypsy, Once Upon a Mattress, and Sunset Boulevard. Then the others, take your pick. I'm guessing it'll be between Floyd Collins and Pirates, the Penzance musical, depending how they want to go. If they want to go silly or if they want to go serious theater. All right, Best Musicale. This is always a hard one to choose, but my picks, because I think they'll do 5 since there's more than 7 shows in this category. I think they're going to pick Dead Outlaw because it already won a lot of Best Musical awards when it was off Broadway, beating out shows on Broadway. So I think Dead Outlaw is a shoo-in. My 3 that I just think have to be in there is Just in Time, Maybe Happy Ending, and Operation Mincemeat. And then probably Death Becomes Her. I really want Real Women Have Curves to be in there, but I just don't know if the show is working as seamlessly as it could, and as some of these other shows do. I also think Smash is worthy for an honorable mention. Boop, if the book was better, maybe. All right, so let's go into the acting categories. Okay, this is fun. I love this. Best Leading Actor in a Musical. There's so many to choose from for this. This always happens with the musicals because they're such great roles. All right. So I think A Wonderful World is close, but James Monroe Iglehart did a great job channeling Louis Armstrong. So I pick him. I would pick Jonathan Groff, Just in Time, for the Bobby Darin. I think Darren Criss for Maybe Happy Ending, playing a robot. That's a challenge. Of course, Jeremy Jordan singing his face off in Floyd Collins, in a role that I think he's really right for. And then the last one, I want to give it to Michael Urie for Once Upon a Mattress, but it'll probably go to Tom Francis for Sunset Boulevard because he did win the Olivier. But I prize comedy over drama. Dying is easy, comedy is hard. Some other honorable mentions that may slip in there. Raman Karamlu from The Pirates, who plays the Pirate King. I think he's great. I also really want Gray Henson to get a nomination for Elf because I liked the show and he was the reason why. But I don't know who I'd replace. I'd replace Tom Francis from Sunset Boulevard because, again, comedy. I love good comedy. I think John Gallagher Jr. gets a honorable mention, and Andrew Durand gets an honorable mention for Dead Outlaw. Okay, let's get into Best Leading Actress in a Musical. You know, what makes this one tough is you've got Death Becomes Her, and you've got 2 excellent leading comic actresses, and you really have to either nominate them both or neither of them. And you got 5 slots. So we just don't have a lot of slots open. So if we're giving it to Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, we've got 3 left. Yeah, Jasmine Amy Rogers for Boop. Then we got to give it to Audra McDonald for Gypsy. And then we got Nicole Scherzinger in Sunset Boulevard. But we still got Sutton Foster for Once Upon a Mattress. So who do we take out? Do we split up the women from Death Becomes Her and just give it to one of them? If so, who? I don't know. Comment below. And I also think Robin Herder is really worthy. So this is so hard. I think they may expand this to 6 because, come on, Nicole Scherzinger. I mean, how do you? Okay, so also honorable mention to Adrienne Warren for being the best thing in the last 5 years. Idina Menzel, or as I like to call her, Idina Menzel, for Redwood. Tatiana Cordoba for Real Women Have Curves. And I didn't even see her performed, but I saw her understudy, and I was like, this is a great role. If it's done well, it could get a nomination. Natasha Hodgson for Operation Mincemeat. She's fantastic. Helen J. Shen for Maybe Happy Ending. I don't think she'll get the nomination because unlike Darren Criss, whose robot was more robot-y, hers was a more modern version, so she was a more human-like person, so it wasn't as big a challenge as a Darren Criss's was. And then Natalie Venetia Belcon. She's been working on Broadway forever, and she's great in Buena Vista Social Club. But gosh, that's a hard category. Oof. I'm really curious. Okay, Best Featured Actor in a Musical. My favorites are Stephen DeRosa for Grampy in Boop the Musical, Jack Malone for multiple roles, but mainly Hester Leggett in Operation Mincemeat. He has that one song that stops the show. Danny Burstein in Gypsy, because it's Danny Burstein. And David Hyde Pierce, Pirates of the Penzance Musical. He's fantastic. And I didn't see the David Thaxton play Max in Sunset Boulevard, but again, that's one of those roles that often gets nominated, so I could see him being the 5th. Some other honorable mentions are Jason Gauthier and Floyd Collins, Stark Sands in Swept Away, as well as the guy who plays his brother was also great. Julio Mong, I loved in Buena Vista Social Club, very small role, but loved him. All right, Best Featured Actress in a Musical. This one, surprisingly, there just weren't a lot of actors I was really jazzed about in this. So my choices, I only have 4 for this. And they are Jordan Tyson, who played June in Gypsy. Kalia Wilcoxon, who played Becca in Redwood. She's just feisty woman. I liked her. Really loved Justina Machado in Real Women Have Curves. I think she'll get a nomination because we got to throw some love that way. And Zoe Roberts in Operation Mincemeat, who played several roles. Those are my 4 standouts. The rest of them, it's just like A Wonderful World. Any of those 4 women could be nominated. But how do you pick one? Boop the Musical, maybe that little girl. Maybe the single only woman in Dead Outlaw. Maybe Bella Coppola in Smash, the assistant director / choreographer who has a breakout moment. Maybe the sister in Floyd Collins. Maybe Anna Gasteyer from Once Upon a Mattress. I doubt it, though, because it's closed. And maybe Jinx Monsoon, I don't know, to give some drag queen nominations. I don't know. None of those roles I was really excited about, other than A Wonderful World. I thought all 4 of those women could get nominated, but then they take up the whole category. What to do? All right. Best Book of a Musical. These are actually all land in alphabetical order, ironically. The 5 that I think will be nominated. Dead Outlaw, Death Becomes Her, Just in Time, Maybe Happy Ending, Operation Mincemeat. Now, I would love Real Women Have Curves. I think it has the potential to be such a great show. It just, this production of it isn't quite there. But I mean, if it gets a nomination, it would make me really happy because I really want that show to get some love. I also think Smash is worthy of a nomination. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Best Original Score. I have 4 for this. Dead Outlaw, Maybe Happy Ending, Operation Mincemeat, Real Women Have Curves, and maybe Death Becomes Her. So that would be my 5th. Other than that, not really excited about Best Score. And also you've got shows like A Wonderful World and Just in Time, which aren't eligible because they're not new music. Also, I don't think Smash is eligible because those songs were written for the TV show. And I wouldn't nominate them anyhow because although the songs are amazing, they don't move the plot forward. So I want a score that moves the plot forward. And maybe Boop the Musical, maybe. All right, Best Direction of a Musical. There's a lot of choices here. I'm going to go my top favorites. Just in Time, Maybe Happy Ending, so good. Operation Mincemeat, Sunset Boulevard. Those are my top 4. Then we could also do Gypsy, although I didn't love this concept for it, but many did, and it was daring, and sometimes being daring should be rewarded. I could also see Death Becomes Her and Dead Outlaw getting a Best Direction nomination. Best Choreography, I just didn't think there were a lot of options in this category. So I'm going to say A Wonderful World, Boop, the musical, Buena Vista Social Club, which deserves it, and Death Becomes Her. I don't know if Smash is eligible, because if the songs aren't eligible, the choreography was made for the TV show. So is it eligible? If it's eligible, sure, give it a nom. And also Floyd Collins, just the one dance number I really loved, but it was just one number. So maybe we give it to them? Okay. And maybe Just in Time, I don't know. Not a lot of big dancing in that show. Okay, now we're getting into the more technicals aspects of the musicals. So, Best Orchestration. My vote goes for Buena Vista Social Club. That was so great. Dead Outlaw was great. Just in Time. Any of those shows that had the live band on stage, I thought the orchestrations were great. I also could see Swept Away was orchestrated really well. And Floyd Collins, great orchestrations. Maybe Pirates, the Penzance musical will get a nomination just because they're doing something original with the Gilbert and Sullivan score, but I didn't find it was always successful, so I wouldn't give it a nomination for that, but they might show it some love. All right, okay, let's wrap this up. Best Scenic Design of a Musical. This one's another hard one. I'm going to say Boop the musical, Death Becomes Her, Just in Time, maybe Happy Ending. And then the question is, are projections considered part of the design of the musical? In that case, it could go to Sunset Boulevard and Redwood. And then also Swept Away had great set design, but again, the show's already closed. So don't know if they'll give it some love. Best Costume Design. My top 5 for this are A Wonderful World. I love how it went through all the different eras of Louis Armstrong's career, and the costumes changed, so that was great. Boop the musical for dealing with black and white and color in a really fun way. Buena Vista Social Club, I just thought the costumes really captured that place and the time. Death Becomes Her. Come on, Death Becomes Her has to get a nomination because the costumes in that show are incredible. And Swept Away just for making the sailors look sexy and real at the same time. Okay, Best Lighting Design. This is a hard one. Gosh, I had more than 5 here that I picked. Let's try to narrow it down. Boop the musical had interesting lighting dealing with the black and white color. Death Becomes Her. Maybe Happy Ending absolutely should be nominated. Again, Redwood and Sunset Boulevard, if projections are considered part of that lighting design. Swept Away, beautiful lighting design. And Floyd Collins, the way it deals with the darkness is good. So I don't know what my top 5 are. I'm tired of doing this, so pick your own top 5. All right, so for my top 5 sound design, I'm going to say Buena Vista Social Club because, gosh, that music sounded great. Again, I'm going to go with the live bands here. Dead Outlaw sounded incredible. Just in Time, another live band. Well, they're all live bands, but these have like the bands on stage. Just in Time sounded incredible. Operation Mincemeat, I think, was a very difficult sound design job because they're dealing with accents and it's patter songs and there's a lot of craziness going on. So also I think it's a really popular show. I could see that getting a sound design. And Floyd Collins for the echoes and all the fun with the cave stuff and then the stuff above ground. So please comment below and let me know if you agree with what you think shows will get nominated. I'm really excited to also do a video once the nominations come out. I'll do a video where I pick my favorites. I've kind of given those away a little bit when I pick my nominations. You can probably tell by my excitement. All right, thanks for watching. And there are days until the nominations come out and till the Tony Awards. Don't